Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Papaya Pod, a McLaren F1 podcast. I'm joined once again this week by another huge McLaren fan and someone who, let's say, has some experience in podcasting. If you know, you know. If you don't, please go and check it out. We do touch on it in the podcast, so yeah, go back and listen to the McLaren Fans podcast, which was hosted by Sarah as well, and many others along the way. But my guest today is Andy Donnelly. How are you, Andy?
I'm good, Jimmy. Good. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Not at all. Thank you for coming on. It means a lot that you've come on, especially so early when it's the unknown.
Yeah, I've been there myself in the past. It can be a bit nerve-wracking. I think
Yes,
you're a very brave man going out on your own.
brave or stupid, one of the two. I suppose it depends who you ask.
Yeah,
Um, no, it's very early days, but I am enjoying it so far. Like you say, you've been there, which we're absolutely going to touch on in a minute.
yeah,
Um, I guess the first question, which is going to be to all the guests, is we're straight into it. Why are you a McLaren fan?
yeah. God, well, this goes back a long time, very long time. Probably before a lot of your listeners, viewers were probably born. So, I remember watching Grand Prix on the BBC in the 80s, which was like
Yeah,
the Murray Walker fronted TV program. And I remember the red and white cars were pretty amazing, which were the McLarens. I didn't quite put two and two together, but I always followed it a little bit. And kind of the reason that most people say, oh, my dad used to watch it, or someone in the family used to watch it, and anything else like that. Um, I used to watch it because I quite liked Yorkshire puddings. Now, I'll sort of elaborate on that a little bit, which is we used to go to my grand's every Sunday, and she'd make a big Sunday roast, with all of the trimmings and everything else, and some Yorkshire puddings and all that. And then, I'd eat all that up. But my mum was adamant that we weren't allowed to go back outside and play and play football or anything else like that for an hour after we'd just eaten all of our Sunday sort of roast. And that seemed to be around the time when the F1 would be on the telly. And my gran loved snooker, which always followed the F1, so the channel never changed.
because them
So you'd
days you had to
have
get up and push the button.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, exactly. So I used to sit there and watch that, and I knew it started off. I knew that when that program finished, I could go out and play football again because I was football mad. But over time, I started to watch the racing, started to learn about the name Senna, Prost, Mansell, and etc. etc. Um, but I always remember the red and white cars, um, and that stuck in my mind. I couldn't have told you that they were McLaren back then, but I was like, I like the red and white cars. Let's be honest, probably a bit of a glory hunter. They were winning everything at the time. So,
Now, this is a dangerous question right now. Um,
yeah,
Obviously, you're from the Northeast,
correct.
so because you were attracted to the red and white cars, bearing in mind
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this question, so I really hope I'm making the correct judgment call here. I'm
Yeah.
assuming you're a Sunderland fan, right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
now it makes sense.
Yes, it definitely makes sense. I think, yeah. Um, I don't know if that had anything really to do with it, but that it was exciting to watch, and I kind of followed it sort of briefly. When I could, and sort of, you hit the sort of teenage years and you get interested in drink and girls and stuff like
Yep.
that. Um,
Happens to the best of us.
exactly. And I kind of, sort of fell out of love a little bit with F1 when Schumacher was winning everything. So I didn't quite kind of hit that sort of demographic. I was like, all right, well. I can remember being on holiday in Greece and some of my friends we were with when we were watching one of the Grand Prix then, and Schumacher was just running away with it. And I was like, this is just no good. Anyway, um, Yeah, so that's kind of what got me into sort of F1 and sort of slightly following McLaren. And I definitely knew I wasn't a Ferrari fan after the Schumacher days. Um, and then sort of obviously after that we had kind of uh, sort of the sort of the resurgence of the other teams after Ferrari. You had Renault and everything else like that. But I'd also kept my eye on things, obviously followed Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard when they were in the team and stuff like that, and started to have a better idea of who McLaren were, everything else like that. But I wouldn't have sat there and said at that point I was a McLaren fan. I was a fan of some of the drivers that drove McLarens at that point. Um, and then I think the thing that really kind of just set it all off for me really was Lewis,
Oh, okay.
British driver, British team, and it was quite exciting. And that is probably the time when I started to watch every race avidly. So what that'd be about 2006, 2007 time. Um, and obviously rooting for the British driver. I think I would probably have watched half of the season before. Like,
Right.
kind of watch the races with an interest of I quite like watching the F1, but I
Yeah,
never kind of,
casually.
casually. And it wasn't really until Lewis where I kind of maybe entered into a bit more of a fanatical phase of it, let's just say.
Yeah, that's understandable. I get that.
Yeah,
Going back to the whole Michael Schumacher winning all the time, I guess it's kind of a British thing to support the underdog as well. And you
it
kind of
is.
want whoever is at the top, when they're at the top for so long, unless they're in a McLaren, of course, you want
Yeah,
them to be knocked off that perch.
yeah,
Um, I mean, Damon Hill did it, didn't he? I mean, for me, I was McLaren, as people may know now from Mick Hakkinen. That was what got me to McLaren. Um, I've got a confession to make here, and it might upset some people. They might unfollow me or block me, but I'm from Portsmouth, and I'm a Pompey fan, football wise.
yeah,
So when McLaren were red and white, it had the opposite effect on me than it had on you.
yeah.
I felt I couldn't support them because they were red and white, and it
Yeah, is
sort
that
of
because of
instant
Southampton, the next
exactly
door?
that. Yeah. The big rivalry. So it's quite funny how it worked out. And of course, then they went to the silver cars with the West and obviously Mick Hakkinen. It was a lot easier for me to support a
Yeah,
team. Now they weren't red and white.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean Mick Hakkinen. Obviously, I know he raced in the red and white car as well. But
yes,
that man for me was phenomenal. I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record. Keep praising him. But obviously, yeah, for me, one of my heroes was Nigel Mansell. He was probably my first Formula One hero. I loved that man as well. Um, but I never really had a team because I love Nigel Mansell. Of course, I know he was at Ferrari, but when he was at Williams was when sort of the age I remember in the early 90s. And then, of course, there was Damon Hill next up, and through Jordan, through Williams. I just sort of followed Damon Hill
yeah,
around. And then sort of with Mika Hakkinen, it was kind of like, right, McLaren. That was it. And obviously he stayed for McLaren with McLaren for a long enough time. And that's why I've stayed with McLaren. I was never really team before. I was always driver before then.
yeah.
Um,
I think that, I would assume most people get into supporting the team via a driver or something
yeah.
like that. Um, Certainly like yourself, obviously I was aware of Mika Hakkinen and everything else like that. But you mentioned their sort of heroes. And Senna was really one for me early on because he was so good. It
Yeah.
was, you know, obviously I'd started watching in the mid 80s, so I caught a lot of how he was good. So, but he was also, a lot of people say the first rock star that they knew that died
Hmm.
had a big effect on them. Well, obviously Senna's death was a massive thing in the sport, and you kind of were, it was hard not to be affected by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, it kind of put him into a bracket of legend, really, in another world. Um, but I can also remember watching the European Grand Prix at Donington and in passing loads of other cars and thinking, oh, this is amazing. It was like watching a computer game at
Yeah.
that point. You were like, um, so I always had a bit of a kind of sort of hero, like a box round center of being a hero, whoever you drove for. Obviously, you went to Williams, and we know how that kind of went. But yeah, so I'd been aware of some of the drivers and everyone else that was in sort of that, but I kind of never gravitated towards supporting the British driver too much until Lewis came along.
Right.
Um, I, and this probably get me in a lot of trouble. I never really liked Nigel Mansell.
Oh, wow. Really?
No, I didn't really like him.
Oh, I
I don't
love
know
Nigel
why.
Mansell.
I
I
just didn't
loved him.
take to him. And Damon Hill was all right. I quite liked Damon Hill. I liked the fact that it was a Brit winning and stuff like that. But I don't know what it was about Mansell. I was never really I was aware of him, but I think, he probably was in that crossover, wasn't he, of where sort of McLaren was starting to decline and Williams were going back up. And maybe I kind of was a bit annoyed that the red and white cars weren't winning as much.
A little bit bitter.
Yeah, yeah, quite possibly.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean that's I guess how I got into it all, and sort of became an avid fan, sort of mid 2000s, and yeah, and then the second thing that probably cemented it for me was I went to my first race in 2010 in Spa.
Yeah.
I think Lewis won that one.
Right.
I think it's the one where Vettel smashed into the side of Button and took him.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Lewis won it. And it was the first time I'd ever been trackside, and it was such a different experience. And that was like the kind of drug from then on. That was it. It
Yeah.
was like this is such a different experience. Um, and it was amazing. You're talking back in the day where you didn't really have any access to any of the teams. There wasn't social media, um, anything like that. Teams really didn't know who you were or anything else like that. But we went for a walk around the track, and as we came back around, everybody had buggered off, including security, and we basically walked along the paddock afterwards,
Oh,
um,
wow.
which you couldn't do now. Not a chance at all.
No.
And I'm armed with a with an old camera that was still film back then. Took some photos and everything else like that. And there was we got the McLaren garage, and obviously they'd won, and the trophies were there. Now I'm not just going to wander into a garage and just have a look at the trophies. So I asked somebody on the team who was doing the pack up, could you take a photo of the trophies for me? And he went, yeah, no problem. He went in and took loads of different photos of the trophies and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
amazing.
that was the point where I started realizing like there's not just one person driving a car, there's a
Yeah.
whole team behind it. They're all with that one goal. And it kind of really, it was great to see Lewis win, but it was like, wow, you really realized it was such a big team effort of not just a couple of mechanics around a car. There was so much more going on. And obviously that just made me even more enthusiastic about the sport. And probably at that time, um, kind of that was probably when the crossover between me being an avid football fan and an F1 fan went the other way. I still, support Sunderland and everything else like that, but give me a ticket to go and see Sunderland or give me a ticket to Monaco, I know which one I'm taking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's an amazing story. Like you say, the team behind the team, that's kind of what got me, as I keep saying, last year at the MTC, just seeing that team really made me think, wow, this is special.
Yeah.
Seriously, seriously special.
Well, just
Um,
out of interest, was that your first visit to the MTC?
yeah.
Time you've
First
been?
and only.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's
It's an
incredible.
unreal place. Anyone out there that if you are not signed up for McLaren Plus, do it because they run competitions every couple of months, I would
Yeah.
say, to win a tour. And if you can get on one of those tours around the MTC, you are in for one of the best days of your life.
Yeah.
Not just because the cookies are amazing, but what you get to see and everything else like that is just crazy. Yeah,
How
so
many times have you been?
I'm not sure I really want to say on here, but it's in double
Okay.
figures.
Double figures.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I mean, I was saying on the last episode, I've been once. I didn't really know what to expect. Don't try not to repeat myself, but I would love to go back again to take it all in properly because I feel like, although I appreciated everything, didn't quite take it in as much as because I just didn't know what to expect. So,
yeah,
yeah, like you just said, I'm a big advocate for people joining the McLaren Plus. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. You just put your email address in and a few details, and you can be entered into the draws, and you will not regret it. Trust me. Get to
yes,
Woking if you get the chance. Get to Woking at whatever it takes. Get there and do it if you get the opportunity. Because yeah, it
yeah,
is
totally
so
agree.
incredible.
Even just to see the boulevard and all the cars on there and the history
Yeah,
is amazing. The trophy sort of wall is brilliant as well. There's been a few times um, when we've been and they've shown us things that are not on the normal tour, which are quite interesting.
yeah,
We've been down to the Mission Control Center once, and that was just like I just wanted to stay there for hours and press buttons. It was amazing.
wow,
Uh, I consider myself incredibly lucky to have been um, a big fan of McLaren and them to give me the chance to go and see some of these things in the past. Um, Especially around the times, we weren't really doing well for a while. And let's just say there was not as many McLaren fans at races or on the internet as you see now.
yeah.
And it's great to see so many people. It's so good to see so many young people coming into the sport as fans, and including sort of females. I don't care whether they've come from DTS or whether they fancy a drive or anything else like that. A lot of them get addicted to the sport and enjoy it for what it is, and then want to actually sort of learn more about it and stuff like that. And that's all good because at some points, when I first started going to tracks, it was really just basically middle-aged men like myself that just went.
Yeah, I'm with you. It depends. Some people look at it differently. Some people don't like the fact that these sort of new era of fans have sort of coming in. Like you say, the young girls are coming in, and I do fear, by the way, if Lando did ever leave, I think McLaren would lose a lot of young female fans. But like you just said, it's all about that fan base growing and just the sport in general growing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, look at what the McLaren have just done this summer with the McLaren Live in London.
yeah,
You could not have done that 5 or 6 years ago.
it would have been a very different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And you certainly
I,
wouldn't have any issue getting in, I wouldn't have thought.
no. Yeah. So I think, the sport's moved on, the engagement of the fans has moved on a lot from what it used to be. And like there's a new generation of fans coming through and everything else like that. So um and that's great. It means the sport survives and keeps going and everything else like that. I don't really see a downside to it. Yes, there's some toxic people on the internet, but as far as I'm aware, it's just because they've got a voice and a place to voice it. Whereas before you didn't hear it because there was nowhere for them to do that.
But that's in all walks of life, and especially in sports. All sports. I mean, football. You probably don't need me to tell you that can be a hell of a toxic place.
Yeah,
So yeah, you always get the minority that sort of bit negative and put a downer on it all. But on the whole, I've certainly found it a pretty positive place, to be honest.
yeah.
And I think
Higher positive, that's what we like.
yes, whether you love it or hate it, and I know it's controversial, but I think the whole Netflix Drive to Survive has played a fairly big part in growing and certainly getting more fans over to it as well. I know quite a few people that are watching it now because of that. Um, Personally, I actually really enjoy Drive to Survive. I know it's heavily edited, But it's a bit of entertainment, and
It is.
take what you see with a pinch of salt, but enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it personally, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. That's life. We can't all like the same things.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch, Andy, on this whole podcast thing.
Yeah.
Uh, this is very new.
Yeah.
Starting it up, not an expert, as I always say, far from it. Learning on the road. Um, as far as I know, it was the first McLaren-based podcast, and it was actually yourself and Sarah that started it
Yes.
5 odd years ago.
Yeah. So if we go back to sort of lockdown, um, you know, obviously you couldn't go and see people. You weren't allowed to go to races. Me and Sarah and various other friends who, some support McLaren, some are Mercedes, some are Ferrari. We'd meet up at some races and stuff like that, or we'd go and watch a race somewhere. And bizarrely, Mercedes-Benz World had a big cinema in it, and we'd go there and watch races there sometimes and stuff. And we'd organize stuff
Did
like
you wear
that.
your McLaren stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, when lockdown happened and the sport came back and you couldn't go to races, it felt like something was lost. There was nowhere you could kind of sit and talk about it and have a chat with your mates about what had just happened, whose engine had blown up, what had happened at this, who crashed into who and all the rest of it. And yeah, why a 3 second pit stop would get me very angry, things like that. So me and Sarah just had a chat about it and just said, maybe we should do a podcast. And I remember us just saying, well, let's just do one, see what happens, see if anyone listens. And I was like, how do you do a podcast? We're like, well, don't know, let's have a go. Just put it on Zoom, record it, see what happens. Um, and we did that. And obviously we started a lot with audio because YouTube wasn't such a big thing at that point. And yeah, me and Sarah started off, and it was what we try to do is a bit like yourself, get a few guests on every sort of week or two and things like that. And really, it was just to kind of essentially, we have to be blunt about it, chat to our friends about F1 and McLaren. And it was great, and I really enjoyed it. We ran for about 70 episodes up until the end of sort of last season. And we had guy Andy Robinson join us sort of like halfway through the run of that as a sort of a third host, which worked quite well. We had a kind of a very good sort of dynamic. Um, and one of the things that we always said was, well, how long would we do it for? What do we keep doing it for? At the end of every season, we evaluated, well, what could we do next? What could we do different next year
Hmm.
to make it something different to what we did? And we managed to do that for a few years, but it got a bit more difficult and a bit more difficult. And as more and more fans came into sport, more and more social media was about, and more things were getting put out, it seemed to be less and less of a relevant thing that we were doing because it tended to be less of us talking to fans and us three just chatting. Um, that we kind of said, well, really what we want to see is McLaren win something and get back up there and get podiums and win races and things like that. It's kind of when we got the Drivers' Constructors' Championship, it felt like a good place to stop, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a one-off, if we get a Drivers' Championship at the end of this year. I don't know. Certainly, I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not just up to me. I'd need to speak to Sarah and Andy about that as well, and maybe we would do something like that to celebrate it, just catch up. But yeah,
Well, if you do, I'll certainly be listening.
yeah, thank you.
So for those that are wondering, or those that are unaware, the podcast we're talking about was called the McLaren Fans Podcast, which is still out there on the feed. So go and listen back because it
Yeah,
is. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was a fan of it, and I mean, that last episode, what a hell of a way to bow out. For
Yeah,
those of you that haven't, go and listen to it now because it's amazing. In fact, the last two episodes, in fact, absolutely
yeah,
fantastic. Not that
yeah,
the others weren't, but though I mean, those two in particular were just wow.
yeah. And I would also say probably one of our highlights of doing them is there was a guy called Matt Bishop. I don't know if you know him.
No.
So he used to be head of communications for McLaren.
Oh, okay.
Ron Dennis's sort of right hand PR man.
Right.
Um, and we were lucky enough to get to do two episodes with him.
Oh,
One
wow.
talking about how he got into F1 and everything else like that. He also used to be the editor of what was F1 magazine
Oh
back in the
God, yeah,
day.
I remember that.
But also he was one of the uh, openly gay people in the sport.
Oh, okay.
So we had an episode where we talked about obviously what he was doing work-wise and everything else like that. And then we talked about sort of minorities and everything else like that in the sport and the changes for that, which is around the time when we had all of the We Races One and everything else like that.
Right.
Those are two episodes that if I was going to say if you want to listen to something really interesting, those are two good ones to listen to as well. So,
I'll be
so
searching for them,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very interesting. That's I mean, what a guest to get as well, right?
yes, yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and it was very kind of him to come on and join us. We just a little secret, we almost got Randy Singh at one point. We were very
Wow.
close. We've almost had a driver before they were driving for us. Come on, but sometimes PR and media stuff gets in the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were doing all right. We were trying our best for a few guests and stuff, but um, yeah, sometimes they just don't work out. But there you
That's
go.
life. I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I say, it was just like listen, like exactly what it was. It was like
Yeah,
listening to friends talking about McLaren and
yeah,
Formula One in general. And it was just good fun to listen. You kind of felt well, every time I listened, you almost feel like you were. I was in the room with you guys, just sort
yeah.
of listening into your conversation, really.
So one piece of advice that I'll give you that Andy, our other host, would always say to me because I'd be like, "Oh, the numbers aren't as much as they were last time and anything." So if you stood in a pub and had a chat with your mates about McLaren and 300 people stood and listened to you, you'd think that's a lot, and you'd be like, "Yeah, if you put it that way, it is." So, um, you know, you'll you'll probably go through the same thing as well at some point where you start thinking, "Oh my God, is anyone actually listening?" But actually, if it's two or three people, it's a couple of hundred. If it's a couple of thousand, actually, you know, it's people are going to find it interesting, and hopefully, and I think what you'll also find is that your angle on things will grow organically as you start doing more and more of
Mm.
these. And you'll get into a flow of it, and you'll find somewhere that it kind of really works for you and you'll feel because the first few that we did were an absolute car crash, to be honest.
Well, hopefully, is the first couple haven't been a car crash, but I get what you're saying 100%. For me, it's not. Listen, I would love to have loads of listeners, loads of watchers, everything else, of course, but ultimately, for me, that's not what this is about as such.
Yeah,
It's about interacting with people like yourself. Simon on the last one and hopefully lots of other people going forward. And it's just about chatting to them and meeting, sort of interacting with you guys. Like I would never have met you if it wasn't for this, and same with Simon and
yeah,
everyone else. So for me, that's more what it's about. And it's if no one listens, I've still had a great conversation with you and learnt about yourself and your
yeah,
experiences and everything else. To me, that's amazing. So
yeah.
hopefully people listen as well, but
Yeah, I hope
it's
they
not the
enjoy
be or and end all.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, so people go back and yeah, listen to the McLaren Fans Podcast because it's good fun. Like I said, it's just light-hearted fun, which is what it's all about. Um, it's one of the things I learned about you from the podcast was you do marathons, right? You're a marathon runner.
I've run one marathon, which was London. Yes, but I've done that this year.
Did you used to do half marathons then?
I've done quite a few half marathons.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so
But
half marathons. So
yes.
last year, it kind of, according to your podcast at least,
Yeah.
when you run a half marathon,
Uh-huh.
McLaren tends to do pretty well in races,
Correct.
podiums, wins.
So this comes back to a few years ago, just after lockdown had sort of finished. I was doing the Great North Run, which was in September, and it was the race when Danny Rick won in Monza.
Right?
I'm at about mile 10, and I get a phone call from Sarah screaming down the phone at me, going, "We've done it! We've done it! We can't believe it! We've won it!" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I won't watch the highlights later now
And
then."
you were running at this
And
point.
I was running at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
So it became a bit of a running joke, pardon the pun. Because then the next time that I booked one, I think I was away sort of in Lanzarote doing one. Like I think Lando Norris won, and I was like, bloody hell. So yeah, yeah. The problem seems to be that now we're doing a lot better, that I need to then go and run sort of longer races
Well, I
and
was about to
stuff like
say, how many half marathons have you run this year? Because we're doing quite well.
that. Yeah, I think we've won more races than I've done half marathons this year, which is good. I think I've done three half marathons this year, so yeah, I think we've won more races. But
Yeah, we
yeah,
definitely have. Oh, amazing. Um, I want to talk about McLaren memorabilia.
right,
Most of
okay,
us have got bits that we like.
yeah.
You have, I have seen one of these, what Andy's about to show, and it's blown my mind.
So
So I need to hear all
most
about
people
it.
who know me personally know that I have a lot of McLaren kit. I've got a lot of McLaren kit, some of it proper team kit going back way, way back to the mid 90s.
Right.
Maybe at some point we could do a podcast in the future where and I'll get a load of that out. I've got like proper team
Absolutely.
stuff and everything. Um, but I have got a couple of things that are slightly special. Um, the first one is a cap, World Championship team signed by Mika Hakkinen, and this is from 99, I think it is. Um, Now, he didn't sign it in 1999. He signed it in 2019, but the cap has been around for a while. Um,
That I couldn't be more jealous of that right there. That is fantastic. Everyone knows Mika's my favorite, and that's amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
Um, and yeah, that's a treasured possession right there. One more thing that I've got is I spoke about it earlier about the Donington Senna race
Yes.
and everything that went with that. So I actually have the program from it.
Wow.
Not only that, I also have a ticket stub with a very young Martin Brundle on
Oh
there.
wow, look at that. God,
Um,
you if you're just listening, you need to watch this bit on YouTube because
yeah.
it's incredible. Wow.
And this is
Who's that on the front of the program?
that's Damon
I
Hill.
was gonna say it looked like Damon Hill.
Yeah, so that's Damon
Wow.
Hill.
Oh yeah, I can see the helmet now.
Yeah, and if you ever go back to sort of some of these older programs, they actually put all of the stats in, like in a
Amazing.
real sort of geeky way,
Different
which is
times.
quite interesting.
Different times.
However, just speaking of different times, and this might get you censored, so I'll try my best to cover up the bit that's a little bit. Uh, yeah.
Who can guess where we're
So
going with this?
let me just say that there's an advert there with a girl with a t-shirt on, and the t-shirt leaves not a lot to be desired. And what it's got to do with Williams, I do not know, but apparently that was what was classed as fanwear back there. Um,
With the
if
caption way out in front.
yes, you can guess what the t-shirt has on it. So yeah,
Make of that
that's
what you
right.
will.
So so I've got things like that. I've got various other bits and pieces as well, and some stuff that's lucky enough that I've been given over the years. But like I say, I do have quite an extensive collection of team kit. I think I probably have team shirt for most years, going back to the late 90s.
Wow.
Um, I just they just all in a safe place, and I'd need to go and sort them all out. Um, and then yeah, I think one of the other things that I've got is just on merch and weird stuff. Um, did you know that McLaren now do trainers and stuff like that?
Yeah. The old
But
K-Swiss
McLaren,
ones.
yeah, McLaren used to do shoes. You
Okay.
buy team shoes, right?
I did not know this. Okay.
I've got a couple of pairs of team shoes kicking about somewhere. I wouldn't wear them because they look crap. But back in the day, you could buy Team McLaren shoes. You could buy Team McLaren on anything. Um,
Wow.
and
Well,
I'll
like black leather shoes.
no, they're kind of a bit more like half racing boots, half shoes.
Oh, okay.
Um, I wouldn't even call them trainers because they've got nothing on the bottom of them really. But you could wear them
We've
slack.
definitely got to do maybe an exclusive YouTube episode or something with
Right.
all this stuff. Absolutely.
Um, but not only that, I've also got some of the merch catalogs from back then as well, with some of the stuff that's in there. And yeah, David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen sort of modeling some really interesting choice of clothing. Remember, it was the late 90s, so
Yeah.
they look
I
like
bet
they're
the
just about to go to a rave together.
Oh God, I can imagine. I bet they were a lot cheaper back then to buy this sort of stuff though.
Yes. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. But still quite expensive for the time. So yeah, maybe we can do that. We'll sort something out.
That'll be a
I'll
lot of
try and
fun.
get some next time I'm going through some stuff. I'll get some pictures and send them over to you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Amazing. I'm so jealous of that Mika Hakkinen signed hat. That's fantastic. So I'm assuming you met Mika, did you?
Yes, yes. McLaren did a 20 years of his World Championship talk
Yeah,
at the MTC, and a few fans got to go along to that.
yeah,
Um, and basically, yeah, I was armed with a Sharpie in my hat, and he was great. He was great with all the fans. He had time for everybody, had a chat, everything else like that. And he sat and talked for about half an hour about that championship winning season and also that overtake at Spa.
yeah.
And let's hope that this weekend we see more McLarens overtaking at Spa, or even better, maybe the
Absolutely.
front.
Yeah, hopefully they won't need to do any. Yeah, I can't talk highly enough of Mika Hakkinen. I love the man so, so much. And like I say, I'm going to sound like a broken record on his podcast because every time he gets mentioned, I'm going to probably say the same
Just
thing. But
hang on, just saying that while I've got something else kicking around there, hang on.
oh, the suspense. For those not watching, Andy's turned around and gone into a draw. Oh, wow, a Mika book.
Yeah. So this is quite old. I think I picked this up at a show somewhere.
Wow,
£2 it cost me.
bargains. Is it an autobiography?
I think it's like more of the championship season, like a
Oh,
journalist
okay.
wrote about the championship season. So yeah, but I've never seen that anywhere else either. That's maybe if I get a chance to meet him again, I'll get that signed.
Amazing, amazing stuff. Uh, what, what's, what's your most memorable moment following McLaren? Would you say? I guess you would go back to the Senna days, would you? Or
Um, as a racing moment or as a moment of being a fan when you kind of go, I can't believe this is happening.
whichever stands out the most, I guess.
Um, uh, a few years ago, I traveled to Australia to the Grand Prix, and it's a long way to go, obviously. First race of the season, and I got a message from the team saying, "Hey, we've noticed you're out in Australia. Meet us at this hotel at this
So,
time."
sorry, when was this?
Carlos had just joined. It's the first season car of the Carlando. So basically, I think it was the Thursday, so it'll have been after the media day and that. And yeah, so memorable because I got to meet both the drivers in a very relaxed, non sort of media sort of controlled
Yeah,
environment
yeah,
and chat
yeah.
to them. Uh, also, well, Carlos stole all of my Haribo. I'll tell you that. That's the standout point at that point.
Amazing. I love how that's what you remember most from it.
Yeah. But yeah, getting to meet them and like I said before, being very lucky and the team has done a lot. Um, but yeah, that's getting to meet both the drivers and stuff like that is a standout moment. Um, but also I think, even though I've said I've been to MTC a number of times, it still leaves me in awe. It still just floors me absolutely every time that you go. And you get to speak to so many people, sometimes randomly and stuff like that. We were outside taking a photo in front of the McLaren sign, and this guy pulls up in his car, stops, and we think we're going to get a bit of a kicking, and told to get out of here and stop making the sign look scruffy and stuff like that. And it turned out it was Piers Tyne is like the head of performance. We
Wow.
wanted to chat with some real fans and chatted to us for about 10 minutes. And, when somebody like that then turns around and tells you, like, you guys are the reason that we do this. And, it's great to see so much support. And that was just after kind of what we've definitely called on the McLaren Fans podcast, the Honda years,
Yeah,
where it was a bit barren. I think the team were very thankful of the support around then and that time. And, we always sat there and wished for better days like we've got now.
of course. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? He could have just driven off. You would have been none the wiser
Yeah,
and gone about his day. For him to do that is incredible. I mean, they really do. When I went last year, we were just in awe, like you say. But they were still. We were like, "Oh, thank you. This is amazing that we're here. Thank you." And that's how me and my dad were the whole sort of morning. Oh, thank you,
yeah,
thank you, thank you. But every one of the member of staff there was saying, "No, no, thank you.
yes,
It's you guys that you're the reason we do all this. If we didn't have fans, we wouldn't be here." And they kind of appreciate it. See, we're appreciating them, and they're appreciating us, and it's like I always talk about. It's just one big family, which is the one thing I really do love about McLaren, and I'm not sure if all teams are the same way.
yeah,
I don't certainly don't get that insight, but with McLaren, it does feel really, really special.
yes. I agree. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, people ask me, sometimes you get those surveys and it goes, which driver do you support? And I get annoyed by that because I'm like, I don't support a driver, I support a team. I really, Lando will leave at some point. Oscar will leave at some point. There will be other drivers come along, but I will still follow McLaren. I will still want them to do well. Like I say, you go some races. I've been to a race where we didn't even make the start line, and you
Mm,
traveled abroad for it, and it's
oh
long,
God,
and you're just like, God's sakes.
kind of trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's like I say, for me, it's team as well. But I appreciate for some people it is driver. Like a lot of McLaren fans turn Mercedes fans and now Ferrari fans, and I get that. I completely get that. Everyone's different, but um, I think for me, like obviously love Lewis, like you just said, British driver at a British team. Um, when he went to Mercedes, I was still keeping an eye on Lewis, and you still wanted because McLaren were nowhere to be seen, right? So you still, personally, anyway, I wanted Lewis to win because
yeah.
it didn't affect McLaren in any way, shape, or form. He's the British driver. I wanted him to win, and even
I'd love
this
him
year,
to win his eighth championship, but just not this year.
not this year, no. I mean, technically, he's already won it, in my opinion, the eighth, but
Yeah,
we won't get into that.
definitely a whole other podcast.
Yes, yes, we could go on and on about that one. Um, but I know the McLaren Ferrari rivalry is a big thing. But I can't hate on Ferrari all the time. Lewis is there. I kind of
Yeah,
want him to do what, like you said, I don't want him to win a championship, but I would love to see him come third. Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure he will. He's a great driver, and just really this year, it's our year. Let us have it.
So, do you have a preference? I know it's all about the team. Said it on the last episode. Touch wood. The constructors is one,
Yeah.
providing nothing drastic goes wrong. Do you have a preference on who you would like to win? Is it Lando because he's British? Do you genuinely not care?
Um, I put my money on Oscar before the season started.
I did too. Not literally, but verbally.
Yeah. I just after last year, I thought he's cold as ice. He's got that killer mentality,
Yeah, he really has.
and I think that's the difference. Don't
I
get me
don't
wrong.
know how you can control your emotions as he does. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm more of a Lando Norris me.
Yeah.
I'm up or
And
down.
I absolutely love Lando for doing that, and that's how he does it. And I we're going to be in for a right treat towards this end of the year because could I pick between them? Yeah, I kind of had to, but I couldn't tell you at this point who's going to win that championship. I think it will be Oscar because I think he will make less mistakes,
Yeah.
and
I,
that's what I
I think
think.
you're probably right. And it's worth saying this has been recorded before Spa. It likely won't go out until after Spa, but this has been recorded before the Spa weekend. So as of right now, I think my understanding is if Lando wins the sprint race and Oscar comes second, I believe they go into the race on Sunday on level points.
Yeah, you know that's just going to happen, right?
It has to, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It has to.
yeah. As long
I,
as they don't then take each other out going up Eau Rouge, then
yeah, I think if that does happen, and I know Lando cost himself the race by a stupid mistake, which he openly admitted to. Which actually, by the way, I love that Lando does hold himself accountable, and some people
yeah,
see it as a weakness. I don't at all. I think it's great. He understands where he goes wrong, and he takes it on the chin. And yeah, he might be down about it for a day or two, but he picks himself back up and. Yeah, he gets himself back in the right headspace again. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. I
yeah,
think it's a great thing.
yeah. Bottling it up and not letting it out doesn't work for Lando. He needs to, and
Yeah,
yeah, but there's other drivers on the grid that are very similar to Lando as well. Um, but yeah, I think Oscar's definitely got that sort of steely mentality that makes you think if the chips are down, then. And I think the telling thing for me is that I think Max doesn't know how to race against Oscar.
he really doesn't.
Yeah,
He really doesn't.
yeah,
Oscar will take no prisoners. I mean, he caught Lando off guard, didn't he? I forget
yeah,
what race it was now, when Lando was on pole and Oscar just took him. And I think if Lando was expecting that, he would have closed the door on him. But I just don't think he expected him to do it. He was
yeah,
absolutely ruthless.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that they get to race. I do. I know they come under some scrutiny last year about it, and I understand why. But this year, why not let them race?
yeah,
If they do have a bad accident, there will be conversations, difficult conversations to be had, I'm sure. But I love the fact there's not a number one driver. Zach shouts about it all the time. I think it's great.
yeah. At some point, if there's a big enough gap, then they've got to support one or the other. But you'll know at that point. It won't be like last year when everybody was going, "Oh, you've got to make get Lando the win, let him do this and all that." The next three, four races, I think, will kind of sort of maybe make that a bit more obvious. Um, you
I
know,
would have liked there to be a race the week after Silverstone to see
yeah,
how Oscar would have reacted. I mean,
yeah,
he would have had 3 weeks to have completely simmered about the whole penalty thing, which I actually think was fair. And I love Oscar. It's not a thing against him. I think he knew what he was doing and he got caught out personally. Um, but it would have been interesting if there was a race the following week to see
yeah.
if it would have had an effect on him one way or another. It could have made him, it could have broken him, or it could have done absolutely nothing. But I think
It's
with the gap we've
well,
had, I think it's probably irrelevant now.
yeah. I was once told by someone. Oh, actually, no, tell a lie. This might have been in David Coulthard's autobiography or something like that, which where he basically said as soon as that checkered flag went, he was the only thing he cared about was not what had just happened. Unless he'd won, then he enjoyed it for the 30 minutes he could. But
Hmm.
as soon as that flag went down and he crossed that line, his thoughts were about next race, the next race. And that's, I think, more of Oscar's mentality than Lando's.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and it's why them guys are the best in the world, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have that mentality. God, if I won a Grand Prix, I think I would be celebrating for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll stick to running half marathons if that's all right.
Yeah, well, I can't do either, so that's me out. You said you've met Mika Hakkinen. Have you met any other drivers, past or present? Or well, obviously, I know you met Lando and Carlos, sorry, as well. But
Yeah, Stoffel Van Dorn, we had a meet and greet with him once. Um, I have at some points hung around outside of a paddock with friends and met a few of the drivers coming out and stuff like that. Been lucky enough to catch one or two of the McLaren drivers doing that. However, probably the most interesting sort of driver fan interaction was a few years ago. We went to the Japanese Grand Prix,
wow,
um, and we were lucky enough to get paddock tickets for the Friday. And that's all I can say, right? Um, I'm also going to say this: it wasn't with McLaren, so right. But
wow, okay,
we got an opportunity, and we were like, "It's a lot of money, but it's a lot less than you would normally pay. Should we just do it?" And me and a few friends did it, and the hospitality bit, fantastic. Um, because they figured out that we were proper fans, so we got treated like absolute royalty. However, because we were in that sort of area, you could, sort of mingle and stuff like that. But we were also in the bit where the drivers would come out, get in the cars, where the drivers' cars were parked, and drive off. So there was about us and about another 10 or 12 Japanese fans waiting for all the drivers to come out. And I would say that half of the grid did come out and uh they would had a program, they would sign the program and stuff like that. But because it's Japan, everybody's really polite.
yeah.
So they would line up in a line and the driver would just go along and just sign that one, sign that one, sign that one. And the people who wanted something else signed would then just leave that line and go to the next, run the back of the line and get
Oh
something else
wow,
there and just line up. And I tell you who surprised me the most that day, and it's not McLaren, but Seb Vettel spent about 30 minutes with everybody,
did he
chatted to
really?
everyone, asked them if they'd enjoying the race weekend, where they'd come from, everything else like that. He was very, very good with fans, was Seb Vettel.
Oh wow,
There was a couple of drivers, I won't name names, um, who just blanked people and went, but generally most of them signed everything. Um,
amazing.
and you're lucky to sort of meet sort of drivers in that sort of situation. But like I said before, actually sitting down and just having a chat like we are now to Lando and Carlos whilst the nicked on Maharibo was quite an interesting day.
You're not going to let that go, are you?
I'm not. You'll ever see him again.
Amazing. Wow, you certainly had some incredible experience, and I mean, going to races all around the world, that's yeah,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I'm lucky enough to have a lot of friends who go to races and will sort of we entertain some mad ideas. We did Barcelona race in a day, flew out from Liverpool in the morning, got the train to the track, watched the Grand Prix, watched all of the ceremonies, got the train back to the airport, got on a flight that night, and we were back in Liverpool by midnight.
Wow. I mean, that's risky.
It was very risky. Yeah.
Wow.
I was
Okay.
absolutely dead on my feet the next day at
Yeah,
work.
I can imagine. But what an experience, right?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
just going for the day, it's something different, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Amazing, amazing stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to do this again because I could go on and on and on, but I try not to make the episode too long. I'm going to finish on a question. It's kind of touched on a similar question, but we went off track, which is probably a good thing. Because still learning, like I said, and this is going to be the
yeah.
final question to most guests. Your favorite all-time Formula One moment on track?
On track. Um, the I guess I guess you can split it into two answers. One is probably one where I've been there and seen it happen, and that was, pretty much. Um, I would say watching my first sort of McLaren win at a racetrack was very special. It was the first five races that I attended, McLaren won every one of them. Right. And it was
Wow.
during the time when Vettel was winning at all the championships. So I felt like this was what the norm was.
I'm surprised
But
McLaren
the
didn't try and get you to every single race.
well, yeah, they should have done really. Um, but also there's one bit that always makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and kind of gives me the shivers. And you can kind of thank Martin Brundle for it more than anything. And that's when Lewis was on the last corner of the Brazil Grand Prix, just about to win the championship with McLaren, and Glock dropped back that place. And just even if I watch that piece of footage back or hear the audio, I get quite emotional about it.
Yeah,
Um, and that's obviously great for Lewis, but that's like the first big real cement of a McLaren sort of wow, that's amazing. This is what this sport is all about.
yeah.
But yeah, that's probably sums it up quite well.
I love that. What a way to end. Andy, thank you so much for joining me. I've
No
really
worries,
enjoyed
mate.
this.
Yeah, I've loved it. Great stuff. Thanks.
Brilliant.
Um,
Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As I said, go and check out the McLaren Fans Podcast as well, which Andy did with a few others because it is good fun to listen to and you won't regret it. So go and check that out. Um, I've been Jimmy, joined by Andy.
cheers.
This is the Papaya Pod. Thank you very much. Never stop racing.